Hey guys, Veronica here. Just a note to our listeners, since the recording of this episode, James William Lewis, who we will be discussing, has passed away. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Criminal Gines, a comedic true crime watch-along podcast where we watch Criminal Minds and discuss the true crime that can be linked, however indirectly, to the episode. We're your hosts, Stacy Johnson and Veronica Shea, and this week we're joined by
Veronica.
Oh, damn.
Not only
She fucked up already.
have we worked together for years, I named this podcast, and you have the audacity, the gall.
And we're joined by Aviv Rubinstien in discussing Season 1, Episode 13, Poison.
That girl is poison.
Copyright.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to get this episode taken down.
That's fair. Your face will do it.
My face is copyrighted.
No, it'll just get so many complaints, it'll be taken down.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Okay.
How are you this week, Veronica?
I am totally depressed.
You're
Boy, do I have
totally
a song for you.
depressed?
Totally depressed.
You're totally depressed?
I'm
What?
totally depressed. Totally depressed.
Totally
Aggressive.
depressed.
That's it like turned a real bad corner for me.
Should we explain to the audience why this is happening?
Sure.
To us?
Hi, everyone. I'm Aviv. I'm in a band. We're called Jacob the Horse, and we just released a single called Totally Depressed. Veronica's wearing a shirt from our band, and a shirt that Stacy facilitated, so this is a real family affair. And I think by the time this episode airs, we will be on to our next single. We're doing a single every 2 months for the next year and a half.
Oh, nice. What's it going to be called?
It's called Keystone State.
You guys should check out Jacob the Horse. I am actually a fan of theirs, which is upsetting to me. I was just saying I wish they were worse so that I could hate on Aviv, but it's pretty good.
So, listeners, if you're wondering about how good our band is, everyone uses the word actually when they talk about us. That's like the quality levels. Like, actually.
They're actually pretty good.
No,
but
they
not just good, full stop. That's good, actually.
Yeah, no, they're a bop. I quite enjoy them.
Hell yeah, dude.
So, we are here to talk about episode 13, Poison. Stacy has been promising us that she's going to do the episode intro or the episode recap.
Ooh.
Uh,
I can do it.
I just get nervous. I like to provide commentary, and I don't like tasks.
So I host a show about Law and Order SVU called Law and Order Special Viewing Unit.
It is
and
actually good.
It is actually okay.
Except for a new eating segment.
Oh, you don't like Snacker Wack?
I don't like Snacker Wack.
I think that is so funny.
Yes, I am a big fan of Snacker Wack. So let's take a step back. As a part of the SVU podcast, I have to do a 90-second recap of every episode before we start, and I am horrible at it.
No, that makes me feel
people,
better.
they
Like
love
I'm not alone in that.
But our newest segment on SVU is called Snack or Wack, and it's where I turn my camera off and eat a snack into the microphone, and my co-host has to guess, and he hates it. He hates mouth sounds.
It's gross.
He hates everything about it. However, he is like the fucking LeBron James of guessing, and he is going fucking lights out. He's gotten 6 in a row.
Dang.
And he is so competitive. He's like such a stubborn, competitive person that he loves getting it right, but hates that means that he has to keep doing it. The segment has worked out better than I could have ever planned because it's just him torturing himself at this point.
That's so
We should
fucking
do a
gross.
preview on this one.
Yeah, do we want to just do a Snacker Wack real quick?
No.
Yes.
Hang on. All right, everyone close your eyes. I'm going to go find a snack.
Okay. My eyes are closed. I'm actually quite excited about this. And Veronica's going to hate me for it later. She hates me for it now.
I hate mouth sounds.
I am so excited.
Everyone's ready for snack or whack. So here's the deal. I'm going to eat a snack into the microphone.
Okay.
And Veronica and Stacy will their eyes are closed. I'm in the same room as them, and each of them is going to get one guess as to what snack I'm eating.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm taking another bite.
I have my guess.
Who gets to guess first?
Stacy, because I know it's in my cabinets.
Oh, he got it from a cabinet. Okay.
Or what if I didn't?
I'm going to guess an elote flavored Cheeto.
Oh. Veronica, what's your guess?
Almond.
Little thing of almonds.
Dang!
Yep.
Yeah. Wow, she is good at this.
Veronica gets the point. Snack or whack, baby. All manner of those types of shenanigans on our SVU podcast.
Give it a listen. It's
Give it a
good.
listen.
It's actually good.
It's actually good.
Okay.
What's this? What are we doing?
We got to do a recap.
We're going to recap episode 13.
I thought Stacy was going to do a recap.
So we open on a father-son driving home after a movie, and the dad swerves to hit a deer that's not there. He freaks out and beats his kid to death. Then he's in custody at a psych ward being interrogated. He doesn't have any memory of hurting his kid. He's been found to have ingested LSD. 6 other patients have also been spiked. So we have now 7 people poisoned with LSD. No one remembers how they got dosed because they can't remember the full days. We find out later that the LSD has also been laced with Rohypnol. They're not going to issue a press release because they don't know how it's happening and they don't want to cause panic.
That works super well.
It works out really well for them.
Important.
We find out there are 4 kinds of poisoners who target large groups. The true believer, who's a political terrorist or religious cult. We see this with people like Jim Jones. The extortionist, who holds a business hostage in exchange for money. The prankster, who's a young offender and doesn't really mean any harm. And the avenger, which is a personal vendetta who chooses poison as their weapon. All of these, except the prankster, will test their poison on a smaller group before planning their bigger attack. So they find that there's a coffee shop linked to everyone, and a high school kid works there who hasn't come to work, hasn't gone to school. They can't track him down, but they track his girlfriend down, who's been like maybe raped, but like maybe not, because she was also roofied and has LSD. And he was like, if I was going to rape my girlfriend, why would I dose her with LSD? It doesn't get you hot. And they're like, he has a point.
Plain and simple.
But then that means he raped her as in like banking error in your favor. And he's just like, oh, my girlfriend's passed out. What do I do?
Right. Or he has experience with LSD before.
Yes.
Certainly
Well, he
does.
said he did.
Yeah.
He said that he had taken it.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
good
right.
job, Stacy. The news runs the story about people being poisoned at a restaurant, but does not name the restaurant, which causes mass panic, which inundates the hospitals with a bunch of people who may or may not have been poisoned. But definitely one person was poisoned because a woman can barely breathe and is suffering from high dosages of botulinum. Oh, yeah. And she keeps whispering the end.
That was really good.
It was really good.
We were like, wait, what?
Ellen Morgan realized the coffee shop is a coincidence. They check out security footage from a bank and realize every single victim has been at the bank, and they think it's the candy. They're like, oh, someone dosed the candy.
Cool.
Spoiler, it's not the candy.
Wrist.
The end.
It's the envelopes.
The envelopes.
Meanwhile, at a pharmaceutical company, all of the CEOs are going on a retreat. The BAU finds a potential unsub and his location. They're able to bring him in, and Hotch is concerned about this fact because the profile says that he would kill people and then take his own life. They don't give themselves up to law enforcement. So he tells them that he spiked the punch at the company party, and they're able to get there in time, and some people are kind of sick, but they're like, Hotch, this doesn't make any sense. These are all lower level employees. Like, why would he be targeting these people? And he's not, because of the envelopes.
The end.
So he's actually targeting the CEO people out at Disney Ranch is where they're filming. So they're taking their yearly retreat to Disney Ranch, and they're using envelopes. Not a woman in sight, I would like to say. Not a woman
a C-suite?
in sight. But they're able to get to them in time.
Wait, so we're going to talk about the rest of the episode. We're going to talk about the episode a bit, right? So I should
Yeah,
hold,
we can. Yeah,
I
just
should
give me
hold
2 seconds.
mine.
I'm like 2 seconds away.
I know. I just got
She's
so
like-
excited about this dumb
I know.
game that they're playing at the
Oh,
fucking
it's so
retreat.
stupid. And then during this conversation, when Reed is realizing that it's the envelopes and that it's the C-suite out in the woods, the poisoner kills himself with a cyanide pill, and there we go. Things end happily, sort of.
Okay.
We're so ready. Hit us with it.
Can we talk about each plot point individually real quick? This guy is definitely raping his son, right?
Oh.
This might be the SVU talking, but he's like a groomer. What? Okay. He's like, hey kid, I know your mom divorced me, but I'll give you scary movies and candy and take you down this fucking route from my bachelor pad in New Jersey to the fucking multiplex that's like the Ichabod Crane fucking road.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I think my favorite is when he gets out to change a tire in the middle of the night with no lights. Like, call AAA. What are you doing? Why is your son handing you a tire iron? Like, what is going on?
I mean, you know, dad core. Like, I need to show masculine. I've been cucked by my wife and the investment banker next door, and so I need to show my son.
Kink shamers. There should be no kink shaming.
Well, he's kink shaming himself. If he just liked getting cuckolded, he and his wife would still be together. So it's like I blame him for yucking his own yum.
Oh,
that's fair.
Good point.
And so he's like, I gotta perform masculinity for my son by taking him to a scary movie, giving him a bunch of candy, and then also beating him to death.
And then beating him to death.
And then
but I think, does he make it? The show is completely unconcerned with this kid's
the
looks.
kid is not the issue.
We moved past it pretty quickly in this one.
And then, this is my first episode of Criminal Minds ever.
You are not the first
I know.
guest to say that.
What was her name?
Emma hadn't
was
seen
saying-
it. I think Parnell hadn't
seen it.
Alex hadn't seen it.
Does it always start with Mandy Patinkin doing like Roman philosopher Lucretius wrote, "He who hath smelt it, dealt it"?
Yes,
Yeah.
there's always
Really?
an opening and closing quote.
Yes.
But it's not always Gideon who reads it.
Yeah, but there is always an opening and a
Is there
closing
always
quote.
a closing Wilco song?
No, just this one. They knew it was your
Yeah, right.
episode, so it's just this one.
Okay, so you said true believer, extortionist, prankster, and revenger, right? But it seems like only one character is familiar with one of the profiles, right? They like go around the room and be like, well, I know about this one.
Yeah.
Don't you all have the same job?
That's my favorite thing is when they explain things, especially when Elle, and I don't know why it's Elle that bothers me, because obviously they're doing it to explain it to the audience.
Yeah.
But when because she's like barely on the team, she's like barely breathing as an FBI agent, and she's telling Gideon and Hotch their jobs, and I'm like, bitch, they run this shit. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, they know. Why are you saying this? They know.
But Matthew Gray Gubler does the same thing where he's like, maybe I'll check the blood reports. Like, motherfucker, isn't that your job to do that?
Right.
But he's the smartest one, so he can check the blood reports because he would know what he's reading.
But like, why are you just discovering like, what if I do this? My job. They also have to explain to everyone what Rohypnol was.
Yeah, also known as roofies.
You definitely do not have to explain to Greg from Dharma and Greg what a roofie is.
Oh.
Awkward. I hate Elle. I hate her so much.
Wow, you're setting women back decades.
No,
I love
we
Garcia. JJ's fine. Prentice is gonna come steal
enough.
everyone's hearts and minds.
Yeah, I'm sad that I did not get a
Apprentice episode.
Apprentice episode. I do love
Well, if this
Paget.
goes well today,
Paget
you can
Brewster.
come back.
It's not going well.
It's already going.
Veronica's
poorly.
already done. I think it's
Well,
I
it
think it's
depends
great.
on if he's nice to Stacy or not.
Which I never am.
So
No, you really aren't.
so he can come back. That's fine.
At least not in front of Veronica.
That's all that matters. I don't care.
So this is the thing that I couldn't control myself over when you were doing your recap, but like the big thing is the killer is gonna enact revenge on the company that fucked around with his wife, right?
Yeah.
And he like just wanted to show them that he could do something beautiful, whatever it is. So he's gonna poison the retreat. At their game. They're going to do games.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck kind of games involve like ingesting are they playing suck and blow? And it turns out that they're doing pharmaceuticals Survivor.
Well, they're taking. It's like a taking a poll. They're voting.
They're voting. Yeah, but
who's?
I thought they were like voting someone off. That was my like. And they're like, everyone knows Bob cheated last year, so we got to lick these envelopes now. And Bob's like, what? He's like, shut the fuck up and lick the envelope, Bob.
Lick the envelope,
Bob
Bob.
is such a cheater.
And then Confucius said, if you're gonna do revenge, dig 2 graves. Wilco. Holy shit. This episode's nuts.
It
I
is
know.
bonkers.
It's really crazy. Can we talk about the true crime now, Aviv, now that we've all eaten things?
Shamar Moore.
Oh, you know what we actually do need is, we have to talk about Shamar Moore. We also have to have Kristen come talk to us about
Mass
hysteria.
Joining us all the way from the other side of the couch.
Kristen, you're here to talk to us about mass hysteria.
I sure am.
What is it? Why is it a thing? Why are we interested in it?
Yeah. Okay, so first we have to start with actually the term hysteria. So some of you might already know this, but hysteria is derived from, you know this?
I do.
Okay, would you like to?
No, I just gave you a thumbs up.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Let a man explain. Stop being so hysterical.
Exactly. So hysteria is derived from the Greek term hystera, and hystera means uterus. So hysteria and
Like hysterectomy.
yes, and being hysterical used to only be attributed to women. So for
Oh, is
obvious
this when they used to dildo us in the office?
probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a vibrator. The first vibrators were invented supposedly because doctors' hands were getting tired. It was
There's
manu-
a really
Oh my
good
God.
play about it called The Vibrator Play. It's literally called The Vibrator
rules.
Play.
Damn.
It's
and they
fantastic.
did a movie with Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Anyways, keep going.
Secretary was not about that.
The Dark Knight was not about that.
So the word hysteria was retired in 1952 from psychology in general. So now mass hysteria is supposed to be called mass psychogenic illness. So mass hysteria should not be the term. It's mass psychogenic illness. So psychogenic, just in case you guys don't know, it means originating in the mind. So attributed to psychological or emotional factors. Okay, so what is mass psychogenic illness? So it has to involve 2 or more people, and they have to have symptoms. These symptoms can be psychological or physiological. So high anxiety would be like a psychological symptom, but there's also cases of rashes, dizziness, headaches, motor issues, so movement issues. These symptoms are usually transient and benign. They usually have a rapid onset and recovery. An important part about mass psychogenic illness is that these people share a belief about what caused the symptoms. These symptoms are spread through sight, sound, or oral communications, and the symptoms have no plausible organic basis. So these symptoms are not due to a virus or a contagion. Any questions so far?
No.
I kind of checked out. I've been looking at the cat sleep.
No. I love the scientific corner because you guys are just so interested.
I am extremely interested. I'm just trying not to ask too many questions.
No, you can. Please do. That's the
No,
point.
we gotta get through it.
So-
Veronica will kill you.
So in this episode, the mass psychogenic
Illness.
is because a news report has said that one of our favorite local restaurants in Beechwood, New Jersey may be serving poison food.
Yeah, there's been a poison at a local favorite restaurant, but we're not going to tell you the restaurant for
Or the
funsies.
symptoms, right? They don't
Or the
really
symptoms.
they don't
Or the
really
symptoms.
tell them the symptoms.
Okay.
Which is how eventually the cops like figure out who's faking it and who's not.
Yeah.
Oh, because they're like, what symptoms do you have? And if the symptoms match the actual symptoms and they know they've been poisoned?
Well, because one woman can't breathe and is on a machine, and they test her, and she's suffering from botulinum poisoning.
Oh,
so
shit.
it was pretty obvious, I think. But
Okay.
they were inundated.
It's in your head. This botulism's in your head.
And the blood. But there were people coming in with like headaches to nausea to vomiting to
All the things.
boils. Yeah, all the
Okay.
things.
Ooh, boils.
Yeah. So how big can one of these delusions get? You said like headaches and motor issues, and rashes, but
Yeah.
like, is there a situation where people have,
Died.
died or become
So
paralyzed or?
mass psychogenic illness started in the middle century, or at least was reported first in the Middle Ages in Europe, and they were called dancing manias. And it was reported that in these dancing manias, people laughed or cried themselves to the point of death. But this was, written history in the 1300s, so we don't know how accurate that is. But that's probably the most intense one that I
crazy.
know of. And what's crazy about this mass psychogenic illness is that it lasted for hundreds of years. It wasn't like a 1 or 2 time deal. Like, it is reported throughout history for hundreds of years of people thinking that they were possessed by demons and they were making them do weird shit. So they were dancing for weeks at a time. They would get naked, they would howl, they would curse, they would lay on the ground and people would step on them. I don't know why, but
Kink.
yeah, right?
Kink shaming here.
Yeah, so it started there, and that's probably the most severe instance I heard was the death of people laughing and crying themselves to death during the...
After weeks of not eating or drinking water.
Correct, yeah, just dancing in circles with each other.
Dancing to
Ooh.
death, correct.
Then in Italy, in the 15th century, there was cases of what they're calling tarantism. So essentially, people were doing the same things. They were engaging these weird behaviors, howling, stripping, dancing, and they attributed it to the bites of tarantulas.
Is that where we get the dance from? The tarantella?
Probably. What's the Tarantella dance?
It's a dance.
What does it
Can
look
you do
like?
it?
Show me.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna turn off my camera real quick.
No.
I don't know how to do the Tarantella. I just know that it is dance.
I bet that is where it's from.
I'm going to look it up.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that was the dancing manias and then Tarantism. And then we had our witch trials, which is another example of psychogenic illness. And then that kind of, I don't want to say leads us into present day mass psychogenic, but it sort of does. There's one in Singapore in the 1960s. So a bunch of men
Why
became...
did you laugh?
I know. She's like, oh, strap in for this shit.
So, yeah, ready?
1916.
So a bunch of men became convinced that eating pork taken from these vaccinated pigs was going to make their penis shrink or disappear or possibly die.
We're anti-vax on this show for numerous reasons.
This is why the Jews don't eat pork.
Yeah.
Yeah, penis
Juice
shrinkage.
dicks are so big.
God.
Historically well known,
No.
well
Yeah.
documented.
No diet cock here.
It was a whole thing. It's called the penis panic.
The penis panic.
Yes. And the government had to create this whole educational system to convince the male population that, I mean, what they were saying was untrue, that the pork was not going to make their...
Shrink their dicks.
Correct, or make it disappear or kill them.
Oh man.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Okay, but here's the thing: is there had to be at least one guy with a micro penis
Be
to
like,
be like, "Look what
You don't
happened!
understand. You don't fucking
This
understand.
is what happened."
It was the pork.
Yes.
It was the pork.
Exactly. He got married. They waited till their wedding day.
Oh,
She
no.
saw the thing.
Oh no.
And he was like,
Honey,
it wasn't like this before.
I swear to God.
I swear,
It was the
I ate
pork.
I
pork
was,
this morning.
I was slanging it before, and then I don't know. I had a bacon, egg, and cheese.
Yeah, it was our wedding day pork. Yeah. I know. I should have looked up the origin of that. Now I need to know the story. Who started that shit?
Patient
real.
zero.
Exactly.
Dick Zero.
How
that's what it was.
embarrassing for them.
Yeah, and the word gets back to them like years later. It's just like, it turns out that it's just your dick.
Yeah, correct.
Oh,
So,
how embarrassing.
Can I ask about these like Middle Ages and witch trial psychogenic illnesses? Because I'm wondering if it has anything to do with, because we deal with botulism in this episode and also like hallucinogenic drugs. And I'm wondering if there's like any kind of thing that they could have ingested that was like rotting or whatever that could have created these like hundreds of years long dancing things.
Yeah, it's pretty unlikely that that would be the case.
Really?
And if it was something that, well, hundreds of people having the same shared belief that a spirit was inhabiting you to make you dance in this way due
Well-
to the botulism that you consumed, I feel like they would have different beliefs. It wouldn't be the same
Yeah,
shared
I think
belief.
it's just religious because, like, look at Salem, but also if you look at like Southern Baptist, where
Oh, like
like
speaking
people are
tongues,
talking in
yeah.
tongues and people are all like, that's got to be a form of that.
For sure. It is mass psychogenic
honestly,
illness.
it's just people who don't want to not be a part of the crowd. You know, they're like, oh,
Is that why you
Jim's
date?
That would be
shaking.
Stacy.
Yeah, I was gonna
right?
say, is that why you were dancing at Nordstrom's yesterday?
I was.
But nobody else joined her, so
We
it's
were,
Nobody
but
else
if,
joined
if
an
we-
illness of one.
If we all got botulinum poisoning, Stacy'd be like, "Oh, me too.
Oh, me too. I don't feel good.
Include me."
My tummy hurts. I just want friends.
Yeah.
God.
So before, like we're talking about in the Middle Ages and, olden days, it really had a lot to do with spirits and just they weren't able to explain things in certain ways. They didn't have the science to say why these witchy things were happening. But nowadays, a lot of it is happening the theory is due to the rise of social media. So the most recent, there was a 9/11 one, which was interesting. So there were children in elementary school, and right around the time of 9/11, when they'd go to school, they'd get this rash.
Are you telling me that 9/11 was
stop
all
it.
in our heads?
No!
Stop it, Kristen. You were gonna pass for me, but now you might be
I'm
a
not
fail.
saying that. What I'm saying is children got a rash at school. And when they came home, they didn't have a rash. And they were attributing that to the trauma around 9/11. And then when the kids went to school, they'd relive that trauma and they'd get this rash. So that was an instance of
makes
more
sense.
recent. Yeah.
Because they found out about 9/11 in school,
Correct.
and then going back to school is like re-triggering
Yes.
Yeah, stress can manifest itself in your body weeks later.
Right.
It's really interesting.
There were definitely people like with PTSD from like watching the footage of the planes hitting the towers
Yes.
over and over and over again.
They talk about there's some forms of PTSD that are an example of mass psychogenic illness. Same with shell shock. They talk about that as being a mass psychogenic illness, which I thought was kind of interesting. But there's also more recent cases. It was in New York, and there was this group of girls, and they had watched another girl, a popular girl on YouTube, and she's like, I have Tourette's. And then this group of girls in New York also started to get Tourette's, and doctors could not figure out why. And then they realized that it was correlated with this YouTube video. So they are really starting to look at the role that media
Jesus
plays.
Christ.
There's quite not quite a few, but there's a handful of those kind of stories out there. There was in Portugal, there was a group of kids who had these symptoms like dizziness, headache, vomiting, stuff like that, and the doctors couldn't figure out why. And then apparently there was a popular TV show where someone had the same instances after eating strawberries. So these kids also start to exhibit these symptoms, but they obviously didn't eat the strawberries and get sick. It was just due to the show.
It sounds like kids might just be stupid.
Impressionable, I think, is the word that we're going to use.
Impressionably stupid.
Impressively stupid.
So we talked about it a little bit, but why does this happen? Why are people more likely to experience psychogenic illnesses than others? And there's not like a great answer, but there are some science that suggests that trauma is a reason. So 9/11, like we talked about, low socioeconomic status. So the dancing epidemics of the Middle Ages, they were mostly low socioeconomic individuals. Exposure to violence is another one. High anxiety is another factor that can contribute to this. There was another thing I didn't talk about. Sorry, just another weird. Nunneries. It was very popular in nunneries from the 15th to the 19th century, but they would exhibit like crude behaviors, and they would swear and they would do these kind of sexual things. And there was a whole nunnery where they would just meow randomly.
They would meow?
Yeah.
You're going to go be a meow nun?
Yes.
I could probably do that now. When women live together and sync up, is that
Mass hysteria?
Literally. Mass hysteria.
Well, no,
because of hysterectomies. Boom, baby. See, I listen.
I think if it's attributed to a physiological reason, so that would be an organic reason. If it has something to do with your cycle, with your period, then it's not psychogenic illness. It's not due to emotions or a psychological reason. But if it has something to do with your period, then that's an actual illness.
So, like, would you call something like QAnon a mass psychogenic illness?
I mean, if they're exhibiting, what are they exhibiting?
Well, paranoia,
stupidity?
Yes.
right?
Yeah, that is a sign of a mass psychogenic illness, paranoia, high anxiety. Yeah.
And some of them are, let's take it at face value and say that they're not pretending, but exhibiting signs of like tremors from the COVID vaccine, right?
Yes.
They're like people who are posting
Yes.
videos online of like, I got the vaccine and now
Yes.
I can't stand up. And
Yeah.
it's always like a middle-class white woman.
Yes. So motor movements is a common symptom of mass psychogenic illness. So like the dances or just like weird twitches or the people who thought they had Tourette's. So yeah, tremors, stuff like that.
That
Yeah,
is
totally.
wild.
Something else, women are far more likely to experience mass psychogenic illnesses than men.
Hell yeah, brother. Stay strong. Red pilled.
Well, the theory around that, Aviv, is since stress is another factor, they say that women are more likely to be exposed to more stressful situations.
Why?
Oh, I don't know.
Probably because we're being hunted and raped by half the population.
That could be it. You know, I'm not going to say
Ever
that.
vigilant.
I'm not going to say you're being a crazy woman for that one.
You're unhinged.
In the episode, it seems like this mass psychogenic illness comes on after like an hour. Like the news report happens, and then maybe even less time.
Yeah.
There's like the phones are lighting
Yeah.
up at the hospital.
And people think they have it.
So how quickly?
Quick.
Can this spread?
Very quick. It's one of the, bullet points of mass psychogenic illness that the onset is quick, but the recovery is also quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a light
They did
switch.
this in House.
Like
there was a
Light Switch.
House
Yeah.
episode with mass hysteria,
Yeah.
and they were on a plane.
Oh, with like food poisoning or something?
The guy who was actually sick had, what's it called when you come up too fast from scuba
the
diving?
bends.
The bends. He had
Yeah.
the bends, but it also presents with very similar symptoms to meningitis.
Oh, right. I do remember. I did watch a lot of House. in
Yeah.
college.
And so then he got on and said that all of these symptoms plus this other one, which has nothing to do with it, and everyone who started experiencing that, and he was like, okay, none of you have it. This isn't fucking meningitis.
Right.
You're you're
not
all
lupus.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
definitely
It's
lupus.
not lupus.
So one of the hard parts about mass psychogenic illness, it's usually diagnosed in retrospect because people are looking at meningitis. They're looking at terrorism, for example. Like if someone thinks they smell a weird smell and they're like, I'm starting to feel sick, and everyone else starts to feel sick, they treat it as if there is a contagion or poison or food poisoning within the environment. And it's not till much later where they're able to go back and say, we cannot point to any organic factor that caused this. So it was a mass psychogenic illness, but it's hard to go back and do those things. And it is basically a diagnosis of exclusion, which is not good enough. They have excluded everything else. So they say mass psychogenic illness, but there's not a lot they can point to say, is this thing that made it mass psychogenic illness? Like it's difficult to do that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
What's interesting is like that made me think of those people who like lie so much about something that they believe.
They start to
that
believe it. Yeah, right.
they
Yes.
believe it.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of is in the same lines for me
Yeah.
for this. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, well, who wants to grade her first? It's a pass-fail.
Oh, I was
Aviv
going to say A+.
does.
Hey.
Yeah.
Thanks, Aviv.
This was a pass. Like you got a double pass for me. This was very interesting, very good. I was into it. Good job.
I
Veronica?
thought that she was grading the episode. Why are we grading her?
No, it's peer review, and we grade her.
we peer
Correct.
reviewed her.
You are
yeah.
peer reviewing me.
Kristen's great. She's my favorite of the three of us. Review.
Excuse me?
Well, she got my name wrong.
What did you?
I don't know.
I've been a goddamn saint to every single person in this fucking room.
Goddamn nice to everybody.
Goddamn nice to people. I just want
Yeah, but we
friends.
can all tell it's fake.
It's not fake.
Wait, what did you call Aviv? What'd she call you?
Aviv
Aviv Rubinstien.
Rubinstien.
Veronica, pass fail.
Yeah, I'll pass you. There was a lot less sax in this one, so.
That's what I said. I gave her a clue. I gave her a tip. I was like, don't say the word sack so many times.
You said sack like 20 times.
We were
and
talking-
were all really grossed
I
out
thought
by
she
it.
was referring to noted psychologist Oliver Sacks.
I don't know
Is
that
that an
person.
actual psychologist? Or are you just fucking with me
No,
again?
real thing.
You can say anything and I would believe you, and it's frustrating.
And that's why you're my least favorite.
It's okay. You're sending me a
Oh my
webcam.
God.
It's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Do you want to stick around to rate Shamar more?
Can I do that?
Gimme more. That voice, the voice of this segment is just really delightful.
Can you bring us in?
Yeah. So now it's time for Gimme More.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's true, everyone. I am the voice of the Gimme More
Drama.
segment.
Okay. This is our Shamar. Oh.
So it's just this still, like just off of this.
This is him in
'cause
the
you
episode.
didn't watch the
Correct.
episode. You've never watched the episode?
You've never watched.
Listen,
the-
so for me, it's just the still.
Yeah, so for you, it's the still.
Okay.
And
Can I
it's-
hear everybody else first before I?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 1 through 5 helpings
Okay.
because we understand he's a 10 at all times. So he has his own scale. And it's food related.
Gimme seconds.
I'm going to give him a 4.
Oh.
It's serving broody realness. It's serving, I can protect you, but also be sensitive. It's, I want to climb it like a tree.
Sure.
So I'm going to give it a 4.
Was he nice in this episode though?
He was barely
Yeah.
in this episode.
He was barely in it. He was
Yeah.
not, no, he was only a dick in the DC Sniper episode.
Okay,
I don't
okay,
know what
okay.
was going on
Okay.
there.
Keyhole in that one.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna give him. I'm gonna give him a 5.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
I'm
close
into
to
this
giving
one.
him a 5.
Maxing out the scale.
Yeah, I maxed out the scale the last couple episodes on him because we're
It's just nice.
we're
You just
in
want to
an-
be nice.
we're in the suit. It's unbuttoned
Ooh,
at the
yeah, it
top,
is.
like the unbutton. The look that he is giving in this is like concerned for you and like how you're doing, and yet again, I could fuck somebody up if they touch.
Yeah, I'm here
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give him a 5 on this one.
Okay.
I also have to go 4 specifically because, okay, so the picture, you can almost smell the cocoa butter that is still on his chest underneath
Yeah, you can.
the shirt. But also, I have to give him a 4 because he's barely in this episode. And the segment is about how much more do you want? And I want a lot more because I didn't get nearly enough.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's fair.
Yeah, I agree.
His relationship with Garcia is very weird.
Yeah, but it gets way
weirder.
cuter.
Oh, I mean,
I know
yeah,
it gets cuter, computer because, spoiler alert for previous episodes, friend of the show Jim McDevitt and I used to live together, and he would watch Criminal Minds a lot, and I saw like later seasons of like they go on like a date or something.
No, they just hang out. They don't.
Oh, I was like, they get romantically involved?
They don't
Oh,
do
okay.
Isn't there like some kind of something between them?
He
No,
stays
he has to
over
stay at her house
for a little bit
when
for
she's
protection. Yeah.
Oh, sure. That's not
Protect
romantic
her.
at all.
Doesn't he like sleep on the couch or something like that?
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
but that's the one where we get baby oil, Shamar.
Oh.
We need a scale for him for that.
Jim's coming back for that one.
Hell
Jim's
yeah.
coming back with baby oil.
God,
Shamar.
I love Jim.
I love Jim too. He's great.
All right, Chris.
I'm going with 5. I like the black on black and the unbuttoned shirt underneath.
It's African American.
Great.
Fucking race.
Black on African American.
You stupid bitch. I'm so happy I stayed for this segment.
I am glad he's out of purple. We have not seen purple in a minute.
We didn't like him in purple.
He was in purple for the first 4
like,
episodes.
You just look
Some
like the
purple.
Joker.
Just like
Purple.
The Joker.
But I think that's also like the style of the early 2000s is like we did a lot of like jewel tones for some reason.
But also a lot
Teal,
of black
turquoise.
people would be put in purple. Like if you look, that was like, oh, you have a black person, put them in purple. And it
Yeah, or
was
like
why?
the dark maroon or something.
Yeah, as Jay calls it, Steve Harvey colors.
Yeah, that's right.
like,
the original
what?
Kings of Comedy
Yeah.
colors.
All right.
Okay, great.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kristen.
No problem.
Go away. All right. Well, let's jump in to our case. We're going to talk about the Tylenol killer, which was a poisoning case in Chicago in the 80s and can kind of be linked to this one.
So I got a lot of info of this from the usual sources. Plus, I want to give a shout out to the amazing You're Wrong About podcast, which deals with a lot of like moral panics. And so the Tylenol murders, the Chicago Tylenol murders, were poisoning deaths because someone was tampering with bottles of Tylenol in the drugstores. And so a bunch of people got sick. Specifically, the first victim was a 12-year-old named Mary Kellerman, and she was hospitalized because she had some extra strength Tylenol and then died the next day. And 6 other people who were like all part of the same family, the Janices, also died, and then a handful of other folks. But a nurse named Helen Jensen was asked to investigate the deaths of this family, the Janices, because a 27-year-old, 25-year-old, 20-year-old all took Tylenol from a single bottle, and the Janices and 3 other people would die from their consumption of Tylenol. And so this is like just a really bizarre case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A poisoning of like 3 relatively healthy 20-somethings. And so this nurse named Helen Jensen was asked to like investigate, and she visited the Janis household and saw that there was a Tylenol bottle with a receipt next to it, basically. Like it had just been purchased, and there were just 6 pills missing. This is like some fucking Zodiac shit that she's just like,
Crazy shit. She's like,
I'm going to count the number of pills in this bottle
Yeah.
to see what happened. And so this was like kind of the tip of the spear in figuring out that Tylenol was what contributed to these deaths. And it turns out that they had been laced with potassium cyanide, which smells like almonds. So, snack or whack. So, they also noted that there was a smell of almonds in the bottle or somewhere on the premises. And so they figured it all out, put it together. But that was only the beginning of what they had to put together, because they had to be like, how the fuck did this happen?
right.
They first started at the factory, right?
Sure.
They thought
Yeah.
they thought that it was a problem at the factory, but these different bottles had come from 2 different factories, one I think in Virginia and one in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania and Texas.
Oh, Pennsylvania and Texas. So extremely far apart.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, it has to have been from like the store.
Yeah.
Right. So it's someone in the Chicagoland area, and there were a bunch of different agencies involved, including the FBI.
Yeah.
And they figured out the pills were from a Jewel Foods in Arlington Heights in Illinois, and an Osco drugstore and a Walgreens, all in Chicago. And Johnson & Johnson had like they produced Tylenol. They had like a huge PR problem on their hands.
Yeah.
And so they did it like this massive recall, which cost them over $100 million in 1982 money, which is like $300 million today.
Yeah.
And they did it nationwide because there was this mass panic. I don't know of a ton of cases of the like mass psychosomatic, like I'm sure people were kind of checking themselves into hospitals.
Oh,
and
yeah.
seeing
No,
doctors.
that was
Yeah,
more
that
because
was-
her peer reviews come from the episode.
Yeah, I know. I'm
okay.
saying, but like,
yeah, I don't think there was that. I mean, the mass panic was people just stopped
they freaked out.
purchasing Tylenol. And like I was born in 88, and I remember
People still talk about
people
it.
were still
Yeah.
not really trusting Tylenol in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like it was still a thing of, and like how you should be careful with certain kind of drugs because of it was like
Right, like check the bottle.
And so this gave us a lot of safety protections in drugs, which we kind of needed anyway.
Yeah.
So the tamper-proof seal in pill bottles are because of this, because people were really freaked out. So this is a safety measure put
it's
in.
also why you don't have capsules a lot. You have the gel capsules and you have tablets more than actual
capsules
with powder in it, which is what the Tylenol was.
Because those are the easiest things to
take apart,
forge, right?
Put back together.
Right.
Yeah.
There are people on TikTok that like it's like one of those ASMR things that they make pills. You can like watch them make pills. I'm like, what's it fucking in those?
Yeah.
But FBI criminal analyst John Douglas,
he's my man.
He's your guy. And this isn't the show like very John Douglas.
It's very John Douglas,
so he had
trying to get him on if anyone knows it.
He tried to flush out the killer. Right?
Yeah.
And so he did this. This is like super fucking cool movie thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see this a lot in a lot of shows and movies.
So with the family's consent, he posted the address of the 12-year-old's grave, Mary Kellerman's grave, and like monitored
in the newspaper.
In the newspaper.
There was an article written about the girl with her photo, like a whole
little girl, gone too young, Tylenol killer has struck.
With her gravesite address on it.
Absolutely stunning.
Trying to flush it. So they monitored this 24-hour video surveillance for months, and the killer never visited.
Yeah.
But like, how fucking cool is that? That's tense as
well,
shit.
and
cool.
This is like a trope now in a lot of shows and movies, but it actually does work in a lot of times, especially when they're like sexually motivated killers will go to grave sites to either relive it or to show remorse.
Yeah.
But this guy, because it was whoever, I can see why it wouldn't work. He doesn't have a connection to his victims. It's just...
I'm wondering if the thinking was, oh, well, Mary Kellerman was on purpose and everyone else is like to throw them off the scent.
Maybe.
A la this episode, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't work. And during the initial investigation, this dude named James William Lewis was accused of sending letters to Johnson & Johnson asking for $1 million to stop the cyanide murders. And then when he was arrested, he was like, listen, I like might know the guy, but like I'm not the guy.
Yeah. But he was like, I was the guy who wrote the letters.
But I wrote it because I know the guy. And the guy told me to write the letters. Or maybe he didn't, but I wanted to capitalize. It's like his story changes a little bit. But he always denied being responsible for the poisonings. He said he worked on the letters for 3 days, which is like, okay, man.
Which puts his timeline before it was publicized.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this is why they think that he is the guy.
Yeah.
And
they keep flopping back and forth.
He was also like, let me tell you how I would have done it if I did do
the real OJ of it all.
And I know, right? It included drawings and diagrams of how to use a pegboard to like put the capsules in to, and
which
like
you can learn on TikTok now.
Which you can learn on TikTok. And also because he had a poisoning book and his fingerprints were found on the pages addressing cyanide.
Yes.
So he had obviously at least opened it to that section.
It doesn't look good for James.
No, it doesn't.
Poor old James.
And so during his trial, he claimed that, or his attorneys claimed that he was like sending it to like help the police, and he wanted to focus the authorities on his wife because his wife used to work for Johnson & Johnson, which is like where we get the killer in this episode, like trying to call attention to the exploitation of his own wife and like pension shit and whatever. But he was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. And then in 2007, they did like a forensic analysis of the postmark of his letter, saying like the timeline was probably accurate and he would have begun working on the letter before the first news report. And then they were like, hey, James, like, what up with that? You're the guy. And he said it couldn't have been him. And they tested his DNA and it wasn't him. Or the DNA, let's say the DNA samples didn't match any DNA recovered from the bottle.
Yeah.
So he still denies it, but the FBI is like, it was him. They don't have any other suspects.
Yeah, they think it was
got in
him.
major trouble and went to jail for extortion, or went to prison for extortion because of it.
Right.
But they've reopened the case. 25 years later, they've reopened the case and they exhumed a body to get DNA out of the femur of one of the victims. And they've gone around to the houses to get like DNA from living almost victims. Like, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and the FBI did kind of a wide spread of potential suspects because in 2011, they requested DNA samples from Ted Kaczynski, may he rest.
Yes, they did.
They did.
Because, and I was like, what the fuck? But then when
Because he
you're
lived
reading
in Chicago at the time.
at the time, and he had been terrorizing.
Correct. For those of you that
places.
don't know the name off the top,
He was the Unabomber.
he was the Unabomber.
Yes, and we will be doing a Unabomber episode.
I have complicated feelings about the Unabomber.
I think I have you
com-
for Unabomber. Yeah,
I am
We
coming back
do-
for Unabomber.
yeah.
I mean, like, he shouldn't have killed those people, but they did test MK Ultra on him. So, like,
they did.
So
and
there you
also,
go.
if you read the manifesto,
he's not all the way wrong.
man makes good points. Things have happened. Things have come to be that he warned about.
Yeah. But the most pervasive ripple effect from this case, from these murders, is not the tamper-proof bottles of Tylenol, but this is why we check Halloween candy for some reason.
Yes, that is why.
So poison candy given to trick-or-treaters is like exceedingly rare, like disappearingly rare.
But didn't, as children, I thought we were all getting poisoned.
Hundreds of kids. When we were kids, we learned that like thousands of kids a year died from this.
From
Right.
poisoned.
When it turns out that only
Halloween
one candy had ever been poisoned up until that point, and it was by the kid's parents. So
What did that kid do?
he didn't eat his
eat his
vegetables.
peas.
Yeah. But the Tylenol incident in 82 raised renewed fears of poisoning candy. And so the 80s and 90s resurgence of like razor blades and apples and whatnot is basically all from this like random spree killing sort of idea that anything that you consume could be poison. But can I talk about Captain Killdozer now? Is now the time?
Yeah, now's the time, baby.
Now we're taking a left turn.
So this episode also reminds me a little bit of one of my favorite crimes ever.
Go on.
Who's this guy named Captain Killdozer? And there's no Criminal Minds episode about Captain Killdozer, or else I would have been on that one. But Captain Killdozer is a guy named Marvin Heemeyer.
Ooh.
And he was born the day after my birthday, October 28th, but 1951. And
You're old.
No, wasn't born in 51, but he's Scorpio like me. Scorpio season.
Hashtag Scorpio.
Ew.
Ew. And he owned a muffler repair shop, right?
Ooh.
In Granby, Colorado. And in 1992, he purchased 2 acres of land from a trust corporation to build a muffler shop. Okay. And the land around it was used by a concrete plant, like a concrete factory, owned by the Dochev family. And the Dochev family wanted to buy this land that Heemeyer like kind of bought out from under them to expand their business, right? And so, Heemeyer bought it, and the Dochevs are pissed, and they like tried to use the like city council to be like, hey man, like we want this land. And the city council's like, just buy it from, like, this is America, use money, like what do you want us to do?
Use money.
And so the town planning commission suggested that the Dochev family asked if they could purchase Heemeyer's plot of land because this is like the way that the city was constructed. They would have like had to have moved the cement plant into like an area where there are hotels, and like the city didn't want that. So it was like the city had a vested interest in Heemeyer selling the land. And so Heemeyer said that he would sell it for $250,000.
Okay.
Which is more than he paid, like 5 times what he paid for it.
Okay.
And then the Dochefs agreed, and then Heemeyer changed his mind and was like 375. No, wait, $1 million. And so they couldn't do it. However, they purchased all of the land around the muffler shop to just like block access to people who wanted to go. They wanted to like put him out of business, right? So they're doing all this cement construction around, encircling his muffler shop. And so Heemeyer goes on the offensive and tries to block them or like sue them that they have to provide some sort of walkway, access road.
Yeah.
But the town wants Heemeyer gone because of this hotels thing. And also there's not adequate sewage. So the way that they're doing the sewage for this, for the muffler shop, is that they're putting it in a concrete truck barrel. You know, like concrete truck, like the ones that spin.
Shut
They're putting all the sewage there and then burying it.
Is this
Yes.
I know what one we're talking about.
I don't know this one, and I am
Okay,
on
keep
pins
going.
and needles. Go
So-
on.
I was
So-
like, this sounds very familiar.
Isn't it cool? So he contacts the sewer district to try to get a sewer line. And the
Okay.
sewer district is like, it's going to cost $70,000 to go from your location to the main outlet because that's like what you have to pay for.
Oh,
Like the
God.
house we're sitting in now, the way that you do the sewage is like you pay to get out to the road, right?
Okay.
But we know that there's no access road to get the sewage line out. So it's like much more expensive, like prohibitively expensive for him to do
Right.
that. He's like, fuck it, I'll just use the cement truck. So it's all completely fucked up. Eventually, the concrete truck barrel filled up and ran over, and then he started pumping the sewage with a gasoline pump into an irrigation ditch. So it's not great.
Oh no.
We're in 2001 now.
Oh God.
So all of the stuff, there's like all of the zoning people are like, "Fuck you, Marvin, I hate you." Then I need you to lean in for this one.
Okay.
Went to California and bought a bulldozer at an auction.
Okay, as you do.
Shipped it to Granby, Colorado. Apparently kept it outside of his business to try to sell it. But no one wanted to buy it. And after the bulldozer failed to sell, he saw it as a sign from God
Okay.
to start his mission. He sold his property for $425,000 to the trash company, took out a lease for half the building to finish some work.
Sure.
Right? So when you buy a house, you can be like, I have to stay for another year or whatever. He built a wall to separate the space, and then he started working on what is now referred to as the Killdozer.
The Killdozer.
So he made a tank out of this bulldozer
Okay.
and included like a huge wedge lifter and holes that he could stick a gun out of.
Oh my God.
And his quote, he wrote this in like a journal. It's interesting to observe that I was never caught.
Oh my God.
This was a part-time project over 18 months. Several men visited the shed late in the previous year and did not notice the modified bulldozer, especially with the 2,000-pound lift fully exposed.
Oh,
Somehow their vision was clouded.
Oh my God.
So he thought that this was a mission from God, and people just didn't notice the Killdozer, and so that like
fully
Reinforces.
Reinforced.
right. And so on June 4th, 2004, he drove the armored bulldozer through the wall of his former business, the concrete plant, the town hall, the office of the local newspaper that allegedly editorialized against him, the home of the former mayor, the hardware store owned by another man that he was pissed off at, and like a couple other homes, the judge, I think.
Oh my God.
And he had no intention of leaving that cabin once he entered it. He like had to tip the lid shut, and it was like a 5,000-pound lid or something that he could never get out of. And so he installed rifle firing ports inside the bulldozer, and he fired 15 bullets, but it was all at power transformers and propane tanks, so he could blow them up. The whole siege lasted a little over 2 hours. A SWAT officer dropped a flashbang down the exhaust pipe, and it didn't do anything.
Oh my.
He was just fine. They tried to disable the bulldozer's cameras. Didn't work.
Oh my God.
The governor denies this now, but apparently at the time was considering authorizing the National Guard to use Apache attack helicopters and Hellfire missiles
Oh my God.
to destroy the bulldozer.
The Killdozer.
The Killdozer. But as he destroyed the hardware store, the radiator of the bulldozer was damaged, and he threw a tread, and so it was like stuck. And about 1 minute later, the SWAT team members heard a gunshot. And Heemeyer ended his life in the Killdozer, and they still couldn't get in. They finally had to open it with an oxyacetylene torch, which is like one of
through
those.
the side.
This is insane.
And so this episode reminds me a little bit of Captain Killdozer, specifically because this guy is like this. It's the revenge poisoner, but like the revenge bulldozer. This guy is like got his mission to enact revenge on the company that like exploited him.
Oh my God. I have a question.
Yeah.
Where does the poop come in? The poop tank.
poop tank?
Why was the poop tank such a huge part of the plot?
Because this was like part of the way that the town was like, according to him, marginalizing him, right? They wouldn't let him do this. They like tried to extort him for the sewer thing.
Oh, okay.
And
I was
also like it kind of shows his mental state.
I mean, yeah, you're shitting in a tank.
I don't think he's shitting directly into the cement
No,
trunk.
he's dropping trow and he's like, "What's up, guys?"
Yeah. Hey guys, want to see my Killdozer?
Massive tank.
Yeah, so I watched the documentary about this.
Yeah.
There's a
Ages ago.
documentary
Yeah.
on this.
It came out in 2019, and there's a Russian movie called Leviathan, which is like a fictionalized account
Oh
of
my
this.
god, I need to watch this.
It is so cool.
But the doc's called Tread.
Tread, yeah.
And
Tread.
it's really wild. But there's also a movie called Killdozer from the 70s.
Yeah, so I think that they named him Captain Killdozer
After the
because
movie.
of that
Oh,
70s movie.
because of the
So
movie.
here's
He
what,
never said Killdozer.
Because then that would be a different story.
Right.
here's what I think we should do. Should we, and the answer is yes,
Okay.
get matching Killdozer tank tattoos?
Fuck yeah.
Because I would
Can
do
I
that.
get one too?
You're here. I
Well, I didn't know if you were just talking about you and Aviv because you exclude me a lot. I'm just kidding. I'm just
I
kidding.
try
I'm
to.
kidding.
This is why she's my least favorite. She always wants to be a part of stuff.
I do. I just want.
She's like herpes. You can't get rid of her. She always pops back up.
Yes. So I have like, in all actuality, like he is a very troubled guy, but like I have complicated feelings about him, like I do about Ted Kaczynski, where I'm like, Marvin didn't kill anybody, and he did just like bulldoze the houses of the people that fucked him over.
right.
Which is funny. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not funny. Like
I mean,
I
it is
would
kind of funny.
die if my house got bulldozed. I would just like give up on.
Yeah,
life.
but like, who
But-
have you wronged in that way? Say their names aloud on the podcast.
Aloud. Say it aloud. I want to hear
Say
you
it with
say
your
it.
chest.
Stacy Johnson.
Stacey Johnson.
That is
But
me.
the events of the Killdozer happened just a year before this episode came out, and I don't think it much influenced this episode
No, I
at
don't
all.
think so
But
either.
it reminded, like, when a one lone actor is like,
Yeah. It follows the same profile.
right, yeah, exactly,
Like,
righteously
not
fighting
going to give
against
himself
the-
up, attack his people, and then kill himself.
Exactly.
Now I want to rewatch the documentary. Years ago, because that's when you were saying it, I was like, this
sounds
is
yeah.
very familiar.
This is
I learned about this in
wild.
grad school because I took a screenwriting class
Yeah.
about adaptations, and one of the assignments was to do a biopic, and we had to do them in pairs. And this dude that I was working with was like, "Let me tell you a story.
Oh, wait.
I'm from Colorado. Let me tell
Let
you
me
a story."
tell you a story.
Of course,
about
it's
the
Colorado. The
Killdozer.
only other place that would take place is Montana.
Or like Oregon, like
Yes,
like
and
deep
Oregon.
I
It's-
also
yeah, the
feel like
militia
this is a
states.
Florida story too.
But he would have blown himself up in the tank accidentally before he
Before he
bulldozed
did
it.
anything,
And it would have been like
And there would have been
it
shit
wouldn't-
everywhere.
It wouldn't have been a tank. It would have been a
The sh-
fan boat.
The shit cement truck. He's just driving it into people's houses.
Yeah, like this, he would have sunk in the Everglades. You know, like this would.
I would watch a Captain Fanboat movie.
What's a Captain Fanboat?
Like he's like a big fanboat with like
Instead of the
gun
Killdozer.
turrets in the front.
Oh
He's got
my
two alligators.
God, that would be amazing.
mushing.
That's the
no,
Florida
he
story.
has like converted the alligators to have like machine guns on top
Hell
of their
yeah.
heads and
Hell
stuff. And
yeah.
they're like,
See you later, alligator.
this is the greatest thing. Please write it.
Yeah, you got it.
Can I?
I'll have a draft on your desk by Monday.
Done. Thank you. Wow. I feel so enlightened now.
Yeah, crazy, right?
That is insane.
Also, the Florida thing is interesting because we hear a lot of these things coming out of Florida, not because Florida is like a little bit of a crazier state than
Yeah.
everywhere else,
Yeah.
but it's also because of their journalism laws. Because people in Florida are allowed to like print more stuff about criminals
That's
than in other states. So like
That's
there are people
right.
like that fucking everywhere.
Wait, what?
So
Yeah.
in Florida, you're allowed, the privacy laws are different. So the reason that
Naturally.
right. So the reason that we hear a lot about Florida man does this, Florida man does that is not because they're significantly much crazier in Florida. Well, it is, but in addition to that, also the press can print more stuff than in other states. They're allowed to print more stuff.
Okay, so if Florida is our crazy state of the East, or would it be of the South?
Southeast.
Of the
Of the
Southeast.
South. We'll call it of the
Well,
South.
Yeah, it's
What are our other crazies? I think our crazy
Ohio.
Arizona.
state of the mid. I was going to say Arizona.
Arizona's pretty nuts.
Arizona
I mean,
of the
nuts.
Southwest.
I hate to say this in this setting,
It's not Nevada.
Nevada's pretty crazy.
Well,
It's not Nevada. We're crazy as a
We're like normal crazy.
You just think we're crazy because we have hookers and meth. Like that's
We do have
why
a
would
lot of
why
it.
would I think that that's crazy?
that's standard. But we're
hookers,
not like
meth, guns.
we're not like
we legalized hookers in a sense, and excuse me, sex workers.
people are going to be mad. Yeah, I was going to say we should say
I
sex
fixed
workers.
it. I
People are gonna
fixed
be
it.
mad.
Sex workers.
Oh, I thought you were talking about people who help you put the worm on your reel for
Yes,
fishing.
that is exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna throw a weird question out there. I've been really obsessed with the question lately of would you still love me if I was a worm?
Yeah, great.
Why? No, I don't want someone who
I think I
wants
asked
to have
Veronica
sex
this
with
yesterday.
animals.
No. Would you still love me if I was a worm, like as your friend?
Love and sex are different.
Those are two different things. Don't get me started.
I know what love feels like, Michael. I've had an erection.
Hey,
Yeah. Would you still love me if I was a worm? Yeah, sure.
cool.
I'd keep you in a little terrarium.
You would.
Yeah. I'd feed you. What do worms eat?
I don't leaves.
Dirt, I think.
Dirt, leaves,
Smaller worms?
smaller worms. Whatever worms eat, you would feed them.
Oh, yeah, I would.
Thank you.
I'd like cut up fresh newspaper for you.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that's what worms.
I feel like that's the case.
Did you have to read that book, How to Eat Fried Worms, as a kid?
No.
That may have been a Pennsylvania thing. There was like a book
think
about
so.
a kid who like eats worms, like fries them up, eats worms. I think it's about like understanding. I don't know.
All right.
No.
Anyways.
Just like,
Worm gang.
No.
New tattoos.
New tattoo
so we're
idea.
getting the Killdozer with a worm
with a
driving
worm
it.
driving it.
Worm gang.
Oh my god, this is the best day ever.
Oh my god, I hate this.
I love it.
You know the image of like the worm driving the Apple car?
Yeah.
It's like that, but he's driving the Killdozer.
Oh my gosh. I also pictured him like really menace looking with like a war helmet
Oh,
or
like
like an
a-
army
like a
helmet and like a
buff worm.
cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Is that the kind of worm you'd be? Like a really ripped worm?
Absolutely. I would be a ripped worm. I'd be smoking. I'd be all kinds of stuff.
I wouldn't love you if you were still a worm because it does sound like you're very fascist.
Still a worm.
Or if you were
That
a worm.
implies that you're currently a worm.
If you were a
I, like,
worm, I
rip off
would
my
not
face.
love you.
But not for your wormness, but for your political ideology.
Correct. Sounds like you're a real fascist. Okay, well, that probably will do it.
This was
Don't
fun.
you think?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I think so. Like, subscribe, download on all your things. Leave reviews or I don't know how to sign off still. Aviv, thanks for joining us.
Thank you
I guess
for
For
having
that's
me.
joining us.
I guess.
that's how we
Follow
do
us
it.
on our socials. We've got a TikTok. We've got an Instagram. We've got other things. We've got all the things. So find us, follow us, leave us 5-star reviews on the things. And then those that have negative reviews, fuck
DM
off.
us.
Let
I
them
mean, DM
Fuck
us.
off.
let them know if you would love them if they were still worms.
Oh, yeah. Let us know if you would love us if we were still worms.
The answer is no.
Fascist worms.
Fascist worms. And
Great
join
band
us
name,
next
calling
week for another
Oh,
episode.
you mean Ron DeSantis? Fascist worm.
Yeah. Do mean that. Absolutely.
Shots fired.
Assistant piss boy Ron DeSantis.
Shots fired. Join us next week for another episode of Criminal Giants.